Hey guys, it's me again, Orc what it. And where I last left off, let's see, checking. Where I last left off of what if Deku was a fallen, Valkaur had attacked the city with the rest of the Red Legion, or at least those who would fall under his command. They took everything they had and threw it at them, trying to kill Deku so that way they could claim that they had avenged Gaul and thus had achieved a mission to go home. But Valkaur was killed by Deku. And this was no easy feat because Deku couldn't use his light. Because if Deku was able to use his light, it would be over a bit quicker. But still. Now to continue on, Kaminari sees what has happened to his city and now starts to formulate plans in his head. Kirishima is helping the injured soldiers and such to medical areas where they can get set up. Everyone is looking at this devastation and is heartbroken. But none more so than Deku. Deku is so low, it's been brought so low by this that by what the Panther Guards say, he literally locks himself in his room. As he sends out, tells them to send a message to his lieutenants, or barons as he calls them, saying that, ordering them that to get the city up in functioning order. That he has to think and reflect on the shame the shame he feels. As they can't really do, Kirishima wanted to go up there and try to talk Deku out of it. But he's been with Deku long enough that he soon figured out that wouldn't really work with Deku. So Kirishima, being Deku's best friend, you could call it, decided to back off. As well, Mina and the rest of them did the same. Aside from, Toga, who made an attempt to get close to Deku. As when she got in there, the Panther Guard let her pass because they know she isn't a threat. But as she was able to get into his room because it wasn't even locked, she just saw Deku sitting in his little throne, his hand over his forehead as he just looked there like he was contemplating. As she tried to get him out of this little, I believe it's not run. It's like this little ditch of his, you could call it. He just looked at her and then just went back to looking down. As Toga knew that she couldn't really talk him out of this after she tried for hours upon hours. To the point where she was talking so much that her voice started to get broken a bit. No, broken. It started to waver, you could call it. And she's like, very well. Kirishima has been using what has been gathering the wreckage from the ships. We don't know what he's doing, but he's doing something. I thought it might be worth telling you. As for the rest of the stuff, Kirishima and them have been rounding up Red Legion survivors. They need to know what to do with them. If you could at least give us guidance on these, please tell us what to do. As she's like, Kirishima is threatening to have them all executed. I feel like Kaminari's going a bit crazy a little bit. As Deku looks up, as he says, alright, I'll do it later. As Toga bows her head, says, thank you, Michael. Now she can't bring herself to look Deku in the eyes. As she feels great shame, she feels that they could have done more. That Deku feels like this is entirely his fault, but really it isn't. It was a fault on all of theirs. They all got too comfortable. They knew something was coming, but they all decided to let their guard down for a tiny bit. As at the moment, the capital is being reinforced. Every asset that the city that Deku had sent out has returned to their little base as they are setting up everything. They will make sure that they are never attacked again. Fallen hunting parties, you could call it, are hunting down Cabal legionaries that are stuck in England. As one ship that was relatively intact is just sitting there, as they have looked over it and they can tell most of the Red Legion that were in it have survived, and that they just set up a camp. But as they would put it, they look demoralized, and they are just lounging around, just waiting. As they call it, they look like they have given up. As they can tell that they have leaders in their ranks, like they aren't leaderless as they put it, but they just don't do anything. They're just sitting there. As well, this happens a little bit. So they're just having the ship surrounded. As Deku goes to deal with Kirishima, ordering that the Cabal be given a chance to leave the island peacefully or to be used as labor in rebuilding the city. Or they could be just, killed and used to create more ether. It's up to them at this point. Deku letting a bit of his ruthlessness slip out for a second. Or not slip out, but he's showing his more ruthless side. As he gives them... Actually, no, he doesn't give them the option to leave. Labor or be turned into ether. One of those two. As many of them as only a few of them actually jump at the chance to become, as some would put it, slave labor. The rest, as they would put it, die with honor, not serving anything they would deem as lesser than them. Even though Deku has clearly proved that he is superior to many Cabal. Same thing with most of his fallen under him. Zen eventually makes his way to Kaminari, as he listens into the conversation. As with Kaminari's scavenger crews, they're grabbing everything they can and bringing it all together. As you overhear this speech, as Kaminari says that they need to do something, anything, and he has an idea. And that, he doesn't have an idea, but he asks for ideas to give him like a little bit of a jump start. As everyone starts listing off all their things. We can repurpose all the Cabal weaponry and use it to make more arms for ourselves and armor. We have a pretty decent thing of their Cabal combat network. We could use that to our advantage as well. Many Goliath tanks, as they're all just shouting out the same things that they would do before. As in, he just thinks, what's something we can't do? We haven't done. As a young fallen female says, well, why don't we just make something new? As she puts her hands up, as Kirishima, or Kaminari, has his interest piqued in that idea. Do you have anything in mind? She's like, we could try, with all that Cabal salvage from the ships and such, and some of them are pretty intact, we could try to build new ships from them. Our completely new design, not just catches that have been repaired. As several of them say, that's crazy talk. It would take a while, as some of them start countering them, saying, no, that isn't impossible at all. With the amount of resources we do possess and the amount of allies, we could conjure up some plans. As Deku's listening to all this, he actually starts understanding what they're saying. Hearing that the idea of creating a weapon or new ships that could rival dreadnoughts, as they would classify them as, since he thinks about it, the city has a massive fleet, thanks to Dead Orbit. The Awoken have, their shambles of a fleet. The other houses have fallen catches and such that all fall under the same design. Cabal ships are very few indeed now that Deku has been pulverized what remains of the Red Legion fleet. And then he talks about how he's heard that Guardians are visiting this giant leviathan of a ship that eats worlds. And then he brings up the dreadnought that the Hive have, saying that that thing still lurks over Saturn's rings, not wings. He's thinking about and saying that it wouldn't be a bad idea. As all of them pose their ideas, Kaminari starts thinking about it and starts drawing up the plans in his head. As if quite a few of them say, well, what would Deku think? As May somewhat says, why would it matter what he thinks? This is the best thing for the house, for our city. He would support us, wouldn't he? As Kaminari remembers her for a little bit, as she was the one who came up with some of the unique weapon designs that they were given during the battle, many of whom exploded. No, not due to any inner malfunction, because they were designed to when they run out of ammo. They run out, they sort of start to overload, and you threw them. Then boom. As he declares May as the mad inventor of his little group. As she starts saying that we could use this, as she starts drawing up plans. With the Cabal heavy artillery, like the fire and all the rocket launchers and all that, they could make excellent artillery batteries. Then they got the Fallen's energy weapons, which are by far some of the most superior in the system. Then she keeps on going on and on, saying that the weaponry that they can possess and put into this machine would rival that of any of the Golden Age technology of either the Fallen or even humanity. As some of them are speaking amongst themselves, Kaminari then sort of stands up. He says, May, you're right. So an idea of yours is necessary. You must try to keep this secret for now. I don't know how Deku would react. The city, though, would probably take this as us forming more warships. At least those in the city who do not yet trust us. And I feel Deku may want to appease them more than guarantee our safety. As Deku feels somewhat hurt by that, because that's one of the main things he's been wanting to do, is guarantee the Fallen's safety. But then he thinks back to it. They got involved when Skolas broke free. As he justified to himself that Skolas was a dangerous animal, as he would put it. He endangered all houses by trying to take on the mantle of Kell of Kells. Well, then he thought back to Oryx. Oryx was doing tons of damage around the sector, and that if they hadn't stopped them, they would have, perished eventually. But then he thinks back to both conflicts, and then he even goes as far as back as killing Crota. He lost hundreds, if not thousands of troops, Fallens, everything, just to protect people who were not his own. As he doesn't think of it like, the Fallen are all out for themselves. He believes that everyone needs to work together. But then he thought back to the Red War. He threw his entire house into a war that they couldn't win, generally due to the fact that they were outnumbered severely. If Nana, as he says, Nana hadn't done what she did, they would have been wiped out, eventually. Though it would have been a slow death, it would have still been a death. He thinks, and he realizes that Kaminari's right. He's been putting so many more before his own house. Before Kaminari can continue on his rant, Deku, they hear walking, as they see Deku emerge on top of the railing. As Kaminari is shocked and is actually somewhat scared, thinking, how much did Deku hear that? As Deku jumps sort of walks down the steps as he's very slowly walking down the steps. As Deku walks up right next to Kaminari and then turns to the crowd. As he says, Kaminari is right. I've been putting the House of Panthers before. I've been putting everyone else before the House of the Panther. And as he bows his head, he's like, I ask your forgiveness. I merely thought that if we fostered stronger ties with the other powerful major factions in this sector of the galaxy, I would make us stronger. By putting more of our lives at stake, I believed I would bring all under one goal. But as he says, but I was wrong. The city, if it was only thanks to the hunters' intervention that we survived today. We need whatever you're going to build. I'm guessing it's going to be ships, as you have put it, powerful enough to rival any number of catches by themselves. And with all that salvage from the ruined Cabal ships, take them, forge them with our technology, and try to gain some of humanity's golden age. Scrap those colony ships and Cosmodrome if you have to. They're not being used anymore. Just ensure you don't destroy lives while you're at it. As he says, continue your good work, my scientists, my inventors, my panthers. As he walks away saying, Kaminari, I would have agreed, you are right. I would probably have tried to appease the city, but no more. From now on, as he puts his hands like all over the right side of his body, I pledge that I will always put Panthers first. As he says, and thank you for making me realize that. As he says, it's no problem, Deku. I know your heart's in the right place, but it's just, I can no longer do it, Kaminari. We must do better. I must do better. Kaminari says, yes, Michael. As he bows with everyone else bowing before him, put all your attention on making those ships, getting that the Cabal battle network set up to our suits while you can. And thank you all for your service. So they say, thank you, Kel Deku. As he walks away, Kaminari relieved that Deku sees eye to eye with them on this. Or eyes to eyes. As Deku eventually hears the reports of the Cabal that have sort of been shot down and they're just sitting around not doing anything. As Deku takes a large portion of warriors, or actually he just goes by himself thinking that he will see what they are up to. As the Cabal, after they see Deku on the horizon, as, well, he has a catcher tube behind him, let's say, instead of him going by himself, the Cabal just look up at him, as then a Scion, a larger Scion, stands up and just starts walking. They're in, like, fancy armor, similar to the Scion flares of the Skyburners. As they approach, they have their weapons on them. As they look at Deku, they just toss it aside and just sort of get on their knees. As Deku's curious by this, as other Cabal start coming out, and they just drop their weapons. As they would put it, they have been completely broken. As Deku orders for his men to take the Cabal into custody and to get them prepared for labor. As the intact Cabal ship, as he comments to himself as they're walking by, will make excellent salvage for the dreadnoughts. Or capital ships, as he puts it. As the Scion looks at him curiously, and then is like pushed forward. He's like, our understanding of Cabal technology is limited to some degree of their inner workings of their ships. But Kaminari's teams are the best. that May girl, she will do fine. As he has begun refocusing all efforts on his house. And I think that's a nice place to end it off at. I hope you guys enjoy this. You guys continue to enjoy this, and I hope you guys have a nice day, nice night, nice life.